This is the immortal John Hancock. I'm here with my good friend Chris Trimiew, who is.
I don't have a cool name. I'm sorry.
All right. So we had a lot of fun last year. Raise your hand if you were here last year at our panel. Oh yeah.
Oh, a lot of repeats.
Dedicated. You dealt with the technical issues last year. Thank you for coming back for seconds. So, as many of you know, I've been collecting video games a long time, and one of the cool things that I like to pursue is kind of the oddball systems. And you know, there's pros and cons to it, especially in these days. You know, finding availability of games, finding games that are entertaining. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit today with my friend Chris here, is that there's a lot of misunderstandings about both consoles we'd like to talk about today. We're going to start with the Atari Jaguar. Raise your hand if you've heard of the Atari Jaguar. Oh yeah, look at that.
Raise your hand if you've played an Atari Jaguar.
Okay.
Wow, a lot more than that.
So, the Jaguar is kind of like the laughing stock of, you know, the final Atari console.
The laughing stock of 1993, really.
And you know, there was a lot of things that happened with the Atari Jaguar that were bad. You know, they barely threw any money at it. They didn't provide proper development kits. Mm-hmm. Too many people programming games, so that's why you see a lot of games that were just like substandard, like Sega Genesis ports or Super Nintendo ports or, you know,
Amiga ports, and their whole do the math. You remember that? But if you do the math and you're a computer scientist, it comes out to 32 bits, not 64.
Yeah. So the thing is that, you know, we wanted to talk about, you know, an obscure console or an oddball console doesn't have to be always bad, but sometimes it can be really bad.
Yeah, there's a reason why they didn't sell too many Jaguars.
So the first game we want to show is an example of how bad, really bad can be. And Chris has done some research on this, and it's pretty interesting. Who here knows about the game Fight for Life?
Oh, very couple. Okay. So Fight for Life was the final game they released for the Jaguar. They released it in 1996. It might be the only 96 release. And at that time, Virtua Fighter had just hit really big. And they said, okay, we need a 3D fighter. And so they actually hired a guy who worked on Virtua Fighter.
A guy.
Yeah, literally a guy. And they said,
3D game, a guy.
They said, we're going to throw a bunch of money at you. Just make us a Virtua Fighter type game to compete, because this is 11th hour. It's our last ditch effort. And so he started working on it, and he hit all his milestones. I'm sure we all know what milestones are in game development. And then one day Atari was just like, you know what, we're going to stop paying you. And he said, all right, well, I guess I'm going to stop working on it. And Atari says, oh, damn, what should we do? I know, let's take the unfinished version and put it in a box. And that's exactly what they did. That's what we got. He sent the last one in December of '95, and Atari's like, I guess this is good enough. They printed cartridges, and that's the game we have. Now, he's gone on, and he's actually released a more completed ROM online. So, as much as I hate to embrace piracy, you're better off if you get the ROM for it than the actual cartridge.
So we'd like to show just how bad can the Jaguar be. We'll start with Fight for Life.
Hans already doesn't look happy about this.
No, it's a bad game.
If you get a red screen, that's bad. If you get a black screen, it's bad because it's Fight for Life.
Great way. Yeah, why did they do that cube? That's really not that impressive.
Hey, we're better than Sega Genesis!
They're like, it can do 3D, right?
Ooh, you have an option. Rolling camera.
Yeah, I honestly don't know the difference. So, let's have
beginner mode. Beginning and final time you're going to play this, probably this decade. Really unique character design, I just want to say that.
You didn't say good, you said unique, and that's important to remember. Does this cart actually have loading time? Is that what's going on?
Oh, maybe it's two-player? Maybe I'm just...
This is gonna suck.
Yeah.
Okay, so essentially what you're looking at
I'm
is...
sorry. I'm really sorry,
It's
guys.
the work of one programmer who stopped getting paid, and Atari was desperate for a title, and so they released an unfinished ROM. And it's just bad. It's not complete. It's substandard Virtua Fighter, which, again, by the time this came out, it was old news.
Yeah, it was 1996.
Yeah.
Jaguar was done.
We don't know what we're doing here.
It doesn't get any better.
And whether or not you knew what you were doing, you still wouldn't know what you're doing because the control of this is horrendous. And so everything from just hit detection to this is just an example of an unfinished game and how not to release a game.
Right. And I don't think you even start with special moves in this game. It works kind of like an RPG where you defeat a fighter and then you get to choose one of their special moves to add to your repertoire.
That's the silliest thing I've ever heard of. So,
Even sillier than releasing a unfinished game.
Yeah.
So you've seen enough of this
Yeah.
piece of junk. Yep.
Please name it.
Also, this is one of the most expensive Jaguar games out there. So I actually paid like $60 for this cart, which should tell you I'm not very smart with my money.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I remember picking up mine. I think KB Toys had a lot of clearance. Who remembers KB Toys? Okay, a lot of people. Okay, so KB Toys was one of the distributors in the United States for Atari Jaguar, and I just remember. Yeah, let's go ahead and do.
They also had some sports games. Who's a fan of basketball? Who's a fan of Woody Harrelson? Who knows where this is going? Obviously not enough people because people are still here.
Yeah, this is just, and a lot of people that have been collecting a long time, sports games were all the craze, and they still are, but there was so much competition. There's literally just like half the library of Super Nintendo, well, actually, maybe a third, but a Super Nintendo and Genesis was, oh, that's bad. That means
unplug it, plug it back in. It'll work eventually if we're unlucky.
So the long story short is that everybody was making sports titles. It was quick and easy money. And so Atari, with their divine wisdom and, high production values of the Jaguar, decided White Man Can't Jump would be a good idea.
They're like, what's going to be the hottest summer movie of all time? White Men Can't Jump. And they already had NBA Jam TE.
Yeah.
So they had a good playing basketball game.
Yeah, and again, this is the cartridge that was not needed on the library. Essentially, it was. Yeah, and it's like if you had NBA Jam Tournament Edition, why would you even think about buying this?
Yeah.
Other than the fact that you didn't know NBA Jam Tournament Edition existed and didn't see it.
Yeah, did you agree with the message though?
I mean, it's just made to go in the bargain bin. Oh, you can be freaky. Yeah, jewels or freaky.
Yeah.
I've actually never played this. It's been kind of sitting in my collection for 10 years and never played it.
So I do believe it's one of the games that's compatible. It is a 4-player compatible game. It came with a team tap, I do believe. And so, what's going on?
No.
Maybe the Jaguar is like, no, I played this enough. No, can't do it today.
Just like you put Fight for Life in me, now you're giving me White Men Can't Jump. What's next?
Okay, start.
John, have you played this?
Tournament.
Oh, yay, there's...
Oh,
God. Like, I'm seeing this for the first time, too, so this is interesting to me.
Let's play ball, baby.
all right.
Open.
So think of like,
Take it.
you combine like the fighting game Pit Fighter with nothing good from full motion video.
Rockin'.
And then he got this game.
That was rocking.
Yo, watch it.
Oh,
Man, this is, and it's only half court. Look, even the crowd there was not excited about it. They're like, I'm just gonna sit on this.
It's not doing nothing.
Oh, I think it's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
so
Chill out.
so as you can tell, this is not great at all.
Atari did not make the wisest decisions.
No, and they were so struggling to have just cartridges on a shelf to fill up a row.
I'm open.
They were so desperate. I mean, they literally just
No sweat.
were just reaching for straws at this time with the Jaguar. They just, they didn't invest a lot of money into it.
Right?
It's an example of, if a company doesn't really care about investing into a console, it's going to die in the vine. And that's an example with the Jaguar. Had a lot of capability on paper. Internally, it was capable of quite a bit. Unfortunately, the company didn't care.
Yo.
And it made stuff like this that didn't showcase anything of what it was capable
Coming
of.
at
Now,
I mean, who was the target market for White Men Can't Jump?
everybody that didn't know NBA Jam Tournament Edition existed.
Yeah, I don't think even
Yeah.
them.
All right, so we saw enough of this.
Yeah, so there were actually good games on the Jaguar too. We didn't just bring junk.
Yeah.
We brought Alien vs. Predator, which personally I'm not a fan of, but it's very high regarded.
So,
What's up with your Jaguar, John? Red screens.
hey, Craigslist fine, so it's all good. So, long story short, a lot of times when you hear a console wasn't successful, you think, well, it must be terrible. But the truth of the matter is, the Jaguar did have some awesome games on it. They're limited.
It had Tempest, which
Yeah.
I probably should have brought that
Tempest
one instead of
2000.
AVP.
Yeah. But again,
Target cards.
what?
Cards.
Oh yeah, that was good. That was good, like Mario Kart clone. Attack of the Mutant Penguins. Yeah, that's okay.
Actually, very, very weird game. They had to be on acid when they did that one.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. It's like, put all these guys on a thing so the bell rings and then like dominoes fall out of a tree.
So I'm a fan of this game, and part of it was, the Doom clones were kind of doing the same kind of thing. And
Yeah,
what I
they were big.
What I really appreciate about this is it took, an established, franchises. It was a comic book spin-off, like Dark Horse, I do believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
And made an incredible 3D game. And when I first played this, I was at a rental store. And you could, I don't know if who remembers playing games for like $3 an hour at like video rental stores growing up? Anybody remember that?
Not many.
So, okay.
Not quite, but I do remember
Yeah.
when people rented games.
Yeah, so there was a place called All the Best Video in the late 90s. And what you could do for $3 an hour, you could play consoles, and you could choose any games from the library that they have. For the Jaguar at the time, this particular place, they had like 5 games. Well, the best game was Alien vs.
Right.
Predator.
So they had like half the Jaguar library is what you're saying.
So what I did is that I got good grades, and so I got to go there and play these game consoles and stuff on consoles I didn't have, and I just think it's an excellent take a Doom style game with in the Alien vs. Predator environment. You can play all 3 different ones. They all have benefits and deficiencies depending on who you play.
It was
got
a great
map
game for the
section.
time.
Yeah, I don't think it's aged well, but I think it really showcased this is what the Jaguar can do. And if you give it time, and it's one of those things, if you play this game, you have to understand that this is a 90s first-person shooter. It's going to be choppy. It's not going to have 60 frames per second. It's just. But I think at the time it really showcased what the console could do, and is an example of one of the best on the library.
And we didn't actually show off the controllers, but they have different overlays. So the controller has kind of like a telephone pad on it, 1 through 9, star and pound.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. Han's holding it up.
It's actually really
And-
comfortable.
And you could put plastic overlays on them that would tell you what each button did, and those came included with the games.
And the Predator had like a lot of special abilities and stuff, and I think you could unlock some over time. And each character played significantly different and had an overlay that came with the complete game showing how to play that character. And so it was cool. I mean, this was really, raise your hand if this is the first time seeing this game. Wow.
Wow, really?
That's cool. And so, again, you know, it has the really cool, eerie vibe of the series. And again, it plays very differently depending on what character that you play with.
And this was the first in a series of AVP first-person shooters. So this came way before Alien vs. Predator on PC and AVP 2.
And if you go over the acid, it hurts you.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, you know, you're underpowered as the Marine. So you're always like, oh, crud, I'm out of ammo. I'm screwed.
It's almost survival horror.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're really playing as a Marine underpowered. And so as an alien, you're quick and nimble, and part of it is to like, as you can like lay eggs and like, and a predator is like, you know, you're
Right.
badass.
Predator's a tank.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's really cool. I really like the map overlay. I thought that was a really cool feature, and when I played this, I used that. Because it's easy to get lost with, especially a lot of the same textures on the corridors. I really thought that was a cool feature that they included into the game.
And you know, the other 3D shooters on Jaguar were pretty good. Wolfenstein, Doom, they're great ports.
Yeah, they are.
Way better than like the 3DO ports, which were junk.
But nobody had this. And
No, this was a Jaguar exclusive.
Yeah, and it really, for me, if you're going to play the Jaguar now, this is something worth playing. You know, got Halloween coming up. You know, it'd be a good one to play on Halloween.
You want to move on to 3DO?
Yep.
All right. So we were going to do 3DO last year, and we just ran too long because John and I don't actually plan anything out. We just kind of bring stuff.
Yeah.
So this is essentially a continuation of what we were going to do last year. Very similar to Jaguar. It's a system that had a couple hits and a few duds, and we brought a couple of each. The first one we're going to show is Shadow War of Succession. Anybody seen Shadow?
Very obscure title. Raise your hand. Okay.
Nobody.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. High five.
All right.
Yeah, all right. You're in for some pain.
Do you all
All right.
like Mortal Kombat? Because that was the big thing at the time. Everybody had to have a, you know, digital fighter that had actual pictures of people. The most famous on the 3DO was Way of the Warrior. Power switch is on the left side.
Okay, so I think it's important to say there was an Electronic Gaming Monthly, I forget if it's 100 or 150, that focused on, I think it's 150, that focused on the worst games of all time. I still think that some of those games on that list that happened many years ago are the worst games of all time. This is one of the worst games of all time.
And very, very few people know about it,
Yeah,
as we
it's
just evidence.
super obscure. It's terrible. I don't even know.
Again, it's obscure. I paid a lot for it, which was a terrible decision.
Okay, this is the intro. Time to get excited.
Yep. Yeah.
Feel the raw power of the 3DO.
I remember this was competing against Street Fighter II and Mortal Kombat. You know, some of the greatest fighters of all time. This was their answer to that.
Even the title is like, what does that even mean?
Shadow War. Well, I do know the story of this game.
Oh boy.
It's not interesting, so I'm not going to share it.
Okay. So,
But basically, a boss of a crime family is gunned down by a helicopter, and they literally have a war to see who will succeed as the boss.
I think this game's missing something like frame rates.
Oh, this game is missing plenty, as we will soon see.
Yes. So I bought this game after reading the EGM article.
Beginner. Go to beginner. This is one of the hardest games I have ever seen in my life. Look at that background. That is a background that only the 90s could provide.
Yeah. Those pants are coming back.
Unfortunately, you may be right.
Yeah.
This does have some abysmal load times, but once you start playing the game, you're grateful for the load times because it's less time you get to spend playing the game.
My name is Erica Storm. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
So you'll notice a couple things are missing, like John said, frames of animation, gameplay, anything that doesn't suck. Like, that's all gone.
So the
Hit
one,
detection.
now, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. I do believe that the special ability, the special moves in this are ridiculous to pull off.
It's just bad control, but they're all kind of Street Fighter, quarter circle forward, you know. But yeah,
But they're not
harder,
consistent.
they're harder than they should be to pull off. This is a game that, again, similar to Fight for Life, was just rushed out of the gate as quick as possible. I'm actually doing really well here. Like, yeah! No, you got to play to the end, Hans. I don't know if beating that guy is something to be proud of, but you did it.
So true story, I wanted to do a test on this when I first got this. Would I do better if I took the controller and started bashing it against my knee? And I found that I actually did better playing this game by
It's a
doing it.
total button masher.
Yeah, it's just like, there's no incentive on doing special moves on this. It's like being cheap, and it's like, yeah.
So the only reason why I'm making Hans play through this is because I have to. No, I just have to show you the end, the finish him screen. Because again, fatalities were kind of the big thing. It's like, oh, we're an adult game and we've got real violence, and that's what's going to sell. Again, this game was super rushed, and I think that's why we only have, how many characters are there, John? 6 or 8?
Yeah. 7. Oh, the hidden one, right?
What was random?
Oh yeah, so probably 7.
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, I mean, again, it's not fun. It's not fun to play. It doesn't compete. And,
With anything.
yeah, I mean, it's
Fight
like,
for Life is a better game than this. Okay, so you see it said finish her right there? So they didn't program in fatalities. So it says finish her or finish him, and there's nothing you can do. You can hit them, but there are actually no fatalities. That did not make it in the game.
and I don't know if it was like a censorship issue or they just,
It was they ran out of time and didn't care issue.
oh,
Han's just like, no, I'm turning it off whether you say so or not. What else did I bring? PO'd? Yeah, another 3D shooter? Yeah, PO'd. Or PO'ed.
I'm guessing that last game's not going to be at Evo.
I mean, maybe in the comedy category, like
Yeah.
when people get sick of actually watching decent stuff.
I mean, the Trimiew,
I'm not kidding here. I had a friend who had a tendency to overstay his welcome. Like, he'd come over at 10 a.m. and leave at like 4 in the morning. Eventually, I got wise to this.
not me.
No, not John. John's great. He always leaves when I tell him to. And eventually, I got wise to this. So one day he's over and I'm like, all right, well, you know, I think it's, I got work tomorrow. And he's like, oh, let's play a couple more games. So I'm like, I think I know what game we need to play. And he didn't know about Shadow, so I plugged that in and I'm like, here's a controller. We're gonna play. And he, seriously, 2 minutes later, he's like, it's getting late, I gotta go.
So I think it's important to know that, like, the 3DO was another misunderstood console. It was too expensive when it came out. It was like, you know,
700
bucks.
Yep.
And it really was advanced for its time. It had some terrible design ideas where, like, the controller daisy chained into the first player controller. So
Yeah.
if you're playing a game and you're not liking your opponent, you just unplug the controller.
You want to hear something really dumb, John? I don't know if you've ever seen it, but so they have Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And we've all played Street Fighter 2. It's a 6-button fighting game. The 3DO only has 5 buttons for whatever reason. Well, they made 6-button controllers. And I've got 2 of them, right? And as John said, each controller, there's only 1 controller port on the system, so each additional controller plugs into that first controller. My 6-button controllers, they don't have ports. So, literally the only game that uses 6 buttons is Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and
And
they
you
made
can't-
controllers where you can't play 2-player with it.
Now, they made other models that had added additional ports. You know,
No, they didn't.
oh, does that only have one?
They all only have 1 port. The Gold Star, the Sanyo, the old Panasonics.
Yeah.
So as you see, there's some walking butts. That is actually what they are. This was a comedy shooter.
Yeah, And you know, again, this is
It is a frying pan.
yeah.
Yes.
So this is essentially a comedy first-person shooter where there's a lot of weird stuff in there. Again, every first-person shooter was trying to be different. Hey, how can we be different? How can we, we stand out? And so, unfortunately, a lot of the 3DO was subpar.
Just because you're unique doesn't mean that you're good.
Well, it was
right?
either better on PC, ported better on other consoles such as PlayStation.
Such as the infamous Doom port on 3DO. Do you know about that one, John?
I don't know a ton about that.
Okay, so 3DO, you can read about it, but I'll summarize it. They hired this woman who was a programmer, of course, and they said, oh yeah, we have somebody working on this 3DO port of Doom, and it's like 80% done. Can you do it in 3 months? And she's like, oh yeah, that'll be no problem. So she gets the source code from them, and none of it's done. 0%. And they're like, also, now you only have 6 weeks to do it. And she's a one-man band, the only person at her development company, and while it is a terrible, terrible port, it is a testament to how good she was to be one person in 6 weeks to make the entire damn thing. She had to reprogram the entire engine. None of it was usable. Anyway, what I'm saying is, still don't buy Doom on the 3DO.
Yeah, so there's some great games, and I would say PO is kind of middle of the road. It's not great.
It's more of a novelty thing, but like you're not going to be mad about it.
Yeah, not like Shadow
like
or
Shadow.
Succession. All right, what else we got?
We got Jurassic Park. I
Right.
think that's well known and popular on the 3DO.
Okay.
So every Jurassic Park game was different, weren't they?
Yes, they were. It
Yeah.
tried to be different.
Yeah, this one had a bunch of weird little mini games in it. Some of them were more successful than others.
Yeah. So, and I think the thing is, 3DO at the time was really just raw power. Look what we can do. This is, we're going to have, a stronger color palette. Our full motion video is going to be better quality than the other competitors, such as Sega CD.
Yeah, certainly.
And, it really was, the precursor. I would say, a lot of times the Xbox gets a lot of the credit to being the pioneer of current generation multimedia
everything
gaming.
in one boxes.
I
yeah.
actually give that nod to 3DO because it really did a lot of things ahead of time.
There's a burn in there if that one doesn't work, Hans. I came extra prepared with Jurassic Park.
So, it really was trying to be a multimedia device.
Yeah.
And it semi succeeded.
It succeeded at being a multimedia device. It did not succeed at selling.
No, and I talk about this when I taught Portland Community College, that there was essentially about 13 different consoles that came out in the 90s, and only 2 were successful. Can you name the 2? Name the 2?
SNES, Sega Genesis.
Well, when I say mid to late 90s.
Oh,
And 64.
PlayStation and Sony PlayStation.
That's right. Those are the only 2 that made money. Everybody else lost money.
Well, Saturn made money in Japan.
Yeah.
Saturn.
Yeah, but not in the U.S. No.
And Sunburn.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jurassic Park. Yeah, this is one of those titles that everybody buys for the 3DO. They must have just printed as many copies as they sold 3DOs. And it's kind of similar to the Sega CD one, if anybody's played that.
East Main.
Oh,
Great.
lucky you then.
It's a Unix system.
Yeah. So you kind of go around
Security systems.
You go around the island.
Select tracking
and
location.
Try to click on one of those.
Select destination.
Select destination. Yeah, that's a good one.
Displaying video.
Good Lord, this takes forever.
No, you have to be impressed. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to impress you with the awesome technology.
Right. Again, this was multimedia in there. Like we need to shoehorn FMV in there. We've got to have our CD sound. If the game is good, I guess that's okay too. But if not, whatever. I think this segment of the game is actually the most impressive bit. So it's good that we went straight to that. It's much better than like the Asteroids clone and the. What's that sound? Jesus.
That's never good when you say that.
No.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You gotta raise the idea.
Yeah, you got a dinosaur in your back pocket
Yep.
there. this isn't actually the bit that I thought it was. I thought they were in the electrical substation or whatever, running for the Raptors. But I mean, this is actually a decent game with all the multimedia features.
Yeah, I think it took various aspects of the movie to make a playable game, and I think that was an example of a successful game. It's like you're taking the technology of an advanced system and making something that's playable. The problem is that the problems were with the console itself, still too expensive. Right. Even with the FC1, the FC10, and the Gold Star, which So I mean, at the end of the day, people in droves still didn't buy the console. It didn't have enough exclusives that were worth it. Yeah. There was some great ports. One good example would be Samurai Showdown.
Samurai Showdown was probably the best port.
Samurai Showdown was a great fighting game on Neo
Select
Geo.
tracking location.
Again, it's the only game that has Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Yep. And again, this is just one of the few games that kind of stood out, But the problem with an obscure console is, again, it doesn't have the fan base for the company to really care, and went away.
And
Engineering
it should be noted
systems.
that Need for Speed got its start.
Oh, yeah.
Engineering
Road and Track
systems
for
locked
Need
out.
for Speed, that's a great game for it. Road Rash, it's the best version of Road Rash, even better than the Saturn and PlayStation version.
Yep.
And that's probably about it.
Yeah, Road Rash. Who's played Road Rash?
The FMV or the
Sega CD version or a computer? Yep.
yeah,
Okay.
it's a good game. More of these people should play that.
Select
One of my favorite-
destination.
It's so 90s with like Soundgarden in it and Monster Magnet.
So we pretty much wanted to talk about these two obscure consoles and open
Displaying
it up for some
video.
questions. I do want to get a picture at the end of this. When we have to shoot out, I would like to get a picture of everybody, if that's okay with people. I want to open it up now for some questions for both of us, longtime collectors of these consoles. And let's throw right there in the front.
I actually have a question first. Why do we do this? Why do we buy these terrible consoles and spend
It's-
our money on these games?
Well, for me, it's like I like Mystery Science Theater 3000. So, right, MST3K. And the new season's not too bad. It's different, but it was still enjoyable. And I get the same enjoyment of playing some of these bad games as watching like a bad movie. And it's enjoyable to show friends, look how bad this can be. I really enjoy that aspect of it. So, yes.
So the Jaguar, I heard that it's, like you said, it's pretty powerful, but people didn't know how to program for it. Were they just people not just given enough time to figure it out?
They weren't given the proper development kits. Like what I do remember reading on Atari Age is that initially there was a lot of development kits that were just bare bones, and they really focused around correct me if I'm wrong, the Motorola 6800 processor.
68,000.
68,000. That's right.
Yeah, which is fine because everybody knew how to use it, but again, it's a 32-bit system. They had two 32-bit processors. They're like, do the math. 32 plus 32 is 64, and in computers it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So basically think one of the difficulties was very similar to the Saturn, where you have to have one processor doing this thing, and then you have to tell the other processor to do this other thing. At the time, there were very few programmers who could wrap their head around multi-threading like that.
And also, is there a homebrew?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, there's a
it's
huge homebrew community.
very
for it.
active. Atari Age is selling some of the homebrews today. They're now taking Atari ST ports and porting them over to the Jaguar, which is pretty easy. And there's just a lot of reasons why, and there's a lot of technical aspects of it. There's tons of homebrews. They're expensive. Atari Jaguar cartridges are expensive. The collector market is very passionate. They're very passionate, and they will defend their console because of some of the great games.
It doesn't make them right, but yeah, they are passionate.
Yeah, and I'm being friendly here.
Yeah, but if you ever get in an argument, just point to Fight for Life and you're done.
Yeah.
Right?
Next question. Yes.
Right.
Yep.
What is the for both of you? What is for the Jaguar? What are your top 3 games you would, if you only had to choose 3? What are your choices?
I would do Tempest right off.
AVP.
AVP. And, oh god, a third Jaguar game. That's
Super
good.
Burnout.
Super Burnout, yeah.
Super Burnout. Who raise your hand if you've heard of Super Burnout? So Super Burnout's another game, and I had a friend that really introduced me to this game, and he's like, no, nobody really talks about this game. It's really about 60 frames a second. It's extremely fast. It showed how fast a Jaguar game could be. It's a lot of fun. If you're a fan of like Space Harrier or, pole position.
It's very impressive for the hardware. It's a great showcase for it.
Yep. It's a motorcycle game. It's like kind of like Hang On. It's like a Hang On crack. It's good.
I'm just going to pick the same games because it's a small library. There aren't that many to choose from.
Iron Soldier's good, good and cheap. Good and cheap as you can get. I think it's okay. I don't think it's aged well,
Yeah.
but AVP I think has aged a lot better.
AVP, Wolfenstein, Doom, Tempest.
Yeah. Missile Command 3D is kind of interesting take of that. Some
It's
people don't
interesting.
like it.
Yeah, I don't care for it.
Yeah,
I don't care for that or
Attack of the Mutant
Defender.
Penguins, pretty different.
Yep, very different. You'll never
Atari-
see another game like Attack of the
Atari
Mutant
Carts
Penguins. Yeah.
is okay. It's like a Mario Kart ripoff.
Stay away from Checkered Flag.
Oh my gosh, bad.
The other racers, they're okay, but not Checkered Flag.
Stay away from Kasumi Ninja.
Ooh, I should have brought that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Next,
anyway.
yes, in the front, Streets of Rage.
So between the different models, I don't know if you've had a lot of experience with the different models of the 3DO, the
I have.
Panasonic ones and the Gold Star.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any that you would recommend?
FC10.
FC10
All day long.
Finalizer.
The one I don't recommend is the Gold Star because the laser is just as fragile as the other ones, and it's very, very hard to come by a replacement laser.
FC10 you can replace, correct?
FC10 you can replace very easily, and very importantly, it has a memory manager inside of it. Some of the earlier FZ1s did not have a memory manager. You had to run a special disk to access the internal memory where it's saved. Luckily, the FC10s are also generally the cheapest.
Yep. FC10 most reliable too, from what I hear.
You had a question?
Say you had the same number of games for the Jaguar that were produced. Say the developers went all in and made that same number just exclusive titles that were really good. Do you think it would have really saved the console?
I mean, it was definitely a weird time because we had 4 consoles released just click, click, click. More than that because we had the Laser Active, which nobody talks about. I will, but
That's
I think aside from the game library, there were more problems with Atari itself.
Well, and the other thing too, a lot of people don't, and even Sega admitted to this too, is both Sega and Super Nintendo abandoned the Genesis 16-bit library too early. And the truth of the matter is, they both admitted that they could have profited by continuing to make games for those libraries. And the truth of the matter is, the majority of people were still playing those and not adopting that new technology because it kept changing, it was different. And that was the big challenge with the Saturn, is it wasn't backwards compatible with the Genesis, and it was confusing. It's like, wait a minute, we just had this
Right.
32X, and this is different, and there's a cartridge slot, but it doesn't work with my Genesis games.
I remember a lot of people asking about that. It's like,
Yeah.
it's got a cartridge slot. Can you play Genesis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a challenge of technology changing too fast and people not really embracing it, and then finally people were just waiting. It's like, okay, well, if this is not in the clearance bin in 6 months, maybe I'll get it. Unfortunately, a lot of them went to the clearance bins.
Yeah.
So,
Way back there.
If through some miracle Atari made a new console, what cat should they name it after?
so
The Atari Ocelot.
I
The Atari Link. No, they did not.
don't,
The Black Panther. No.
I think
Don't want to do that one.
The problem with Atari now is just a shell of what it used to be.
Yeah.
And so they're gonna make, they're gonna make like a Steam box, or they're gonna make a Linux.
The Atari box.
They're gonna make something that's gonna play some Atari games, and they're gonna do a crowdfunding campaign for it, and then they announce the price. So my answer is, it doesn't really matter because I'm not interested at $300.
Atari is no longer a company. Atari is a name you license out.
So I mean, that's the honest answer. I mean, they could call it, Hello Kitty, and I wouldn't care. I mean, it's just
Basically, it's the saber-toothed tiger since it's extinct.
I agree. I mean, I think
like
they
that.
shot themselves in the foot pricing it at $299. Like, once they said that, I'm like, there's other established players in the field with a more established name and a better library. Play at PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch. There's no need for Atari.
You know what we missed talking about with the Jaguar?
What?
When they tried their upgrade.
Oh, the toilet.
Yeah.
The toilet. But we got some questions here. But yeah, they made a CD add-on that nobody bought, and it's nicknamed a toilet. 'cause
All
it
the
looks
games
like,
are terrible, that's all you need to know.
It looks like a toilet. It's
And they're almost all broken.
pretty bad.
5 minutes?
Thank you.
Okay. We'll use that up with questions. Yes?
Did you guys see the VR headset that they actually made for the Jaguar?
I've seen it in pictures. I haven't experienced it myself. That wouldn't have saved it.
No.
Yeah, you know, and I have a VR kind of like it's what's that thing? I have a VR headset that was compatible with Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
And what is that called? I did a video on it.
The what?
The activator?
No, that's the octagonal ring that you put around and it doesn't work.
I have an early VR headset, and it's horrendous. It's early LCD technology that doesn't work, that doesn't
Heavy.
make things fun.
Eye strain.
Yeah, it's bad. So no. Yeah, I haven't played it, and it wouldn't help the Jaguar.
I
But
think we got maybe two more
more
questions
questions.
if anybody's got anything.
yes,
I was along the same lines of the Atari box. I was gonna say, do you think they'll just try to bury all this Jaguar IP forever and not like revive it at some point?
I don't think there's a big enough fan base. I think there's
Yeah.
a big enough homebrew that's care about it, and Atari Age I think caters to that. The problem is there's always going to be fans of even obscure consoles. There's probably a lot of Jaguar fans in here, but there's a difference between having fans and having
Having a
mainstream-
viable business model.
Yeah, having a mainstream audience where you can like spend ridiculous amounts to like, you know, make a mini Jaguar. I don't think the mainstream would laugh at it, you know.
We're
But
laughing at it now.
Yeah, it's true. Right, one other
One more?
question, and we'll do a picture.
No, we got two. You can fight. No, let's take you right there.
Do you guys have Action Max?
Yes, complete library.
Okay, we'll take one more. Yeah, back there.
I know there's multiple versions of the 3DO. Is it easy to tell them apart? Because you mentioned there was one that was better.
Yeah, they all look very different. The FZ10 has a flip-top lid if you want to hold that one up.
Just be
Yeah,
careful.
that's the
It's
one.
okay.
That's the FZ10. The other ones are big and boxy. And then there's, of course, the gold star on it, which says Gold Star.
Yeah, FC10 again. What we said earlier is the one to get.
Yep. All right, I think we're done.
All right, let's do. And like I said, we're gonna do a picture here. I don't have the phone. Do you have your phone?
I do have a phone.
Okay, so we'll get together, people. We'll do a picture in the front, and we'll walk out. Like I said, I think our time's up. So I want to thank everybody for coming to this, and thank you so much. Oh, thank you.